Elon Musk, oh, that guy from Tesla, he's known for these brutal workplaces that we've seen going around, but what we haven't seen so much is that it's also a hotbed for racism, harassment, all across the board. Because yesterday, California Civil Rights Agency, they filed a lawsuit against the company from the plant in Fremont on behalf of thousands of black workers who experienced blatant discrimination on the job. Now, this is after a decade of complaints and a 32-month investigation. This is some of the allegations that some of the workers have experienced there. Tesla segregated black workers into separate areas that its employees refer to as, quote, porch monkey stations. That's great. The dark side, the slave ship, the plantation, is what this lawsuit alleges. Only black workers had to scrub floors on their hands and knees, and they were relegated to the Fremont, California factory's most difficult physical jobs, is what this suit also states. Graffiti, including KKK, Go Back to Africa, the Hangman's Noose, the Confederate flag, and F-N-word were carved into restroom walls, workplace benches, and lunch tables, and were slow to be erased. Also what this lawsuit says. Not only were Tesla's black workers subjected to willful, malicious harassment, but they were also denied promotions and paid less than other workers for the same jobs. They were disciplined for infractions for which other workers were not penalized. Now, this all comes when the percentages and the number of workers here at this plant were 20% of the Tesla's factory assemblers were black, but there's no black executives, and just 3% of the professionals at the Fremont plant are black, is what this lawsuit also says. So this always comes straight to my mind is how everyone's saying, hey, Elon, come on to Texas. Come on to Texas. We don't care about our citizens' rights either. Maybe you can hire some more folks and treat them like this too. Now, we don't know if Elon is running around the plant going here, do this, do that, but we do know that this culture and this atmosphere was definitely allowed, and whoever was hired to oversee this stuff definitely allowed it to go on. So last October, as a part of this as well, there was a San Francisco federal court that ruled that Tesla must pay former worker Owen Diaz approximately $137 million after he experienced racism while working for the company. And the reason why he was able to even to settle with this is because this one technicality, because they really never want this to happen, and maybe they do know how it looks. Let's read this part. According to Diaz's attorney, the case was only able to move forward because the worker had not signed one of Tesla's mandatory arbitration agreements. Tesla uses mandatory arbitration to compel employees to resolve disputes behind closed doors rather than in a public trial. That's weird. It's like they kind of don't want anyone to know about what could potentially go on. Maybe they know what's going on. Before we get to some of the sexual harassment, let's start with this, these racial divisions and injustices.
So it's an allegation. California is suing, and so whenever you see a lawsuit, we always tell you, look, let's see how it turns out first. We'll tell you what the allegations are, but they have not been adjudicated yet. So then you have to see, well, is there any legitimacy to it or not based on the evidence that we already see in public? So what's the evidence that we see here? Well, this is not one or two isolated cases. These are not mild words. Oh, well, you know, it was around the edges. This is nowhere near the edges, okay? This is over the top, and there are hundreds of allegations. On top of that, Elon Musk actually wrote an email to his employees saying, hey, listen, you know what? You just gotta have tough skin. No, I believe in thick skin. Okay, I get it, because we can't all, operate based on if one person at a giant company gets offended or hurt, everyone else has to change policy. So you have to do a balancing act, right? But you can't tell people after they complain about nooses being hung and being, and I can't even repeat the things that JR just said. Just get some thick skin. You know what that says? Green light. Do whatever you want to the black employees. There's gonna be no consequences. That's why you don't have a couple of cases, you have hundreds of cases. And then the last part is, well, it has been adjudicated that one person sued that JR just told you about and won $137 million. You know why? Most of it was punitive damages, because the jury was enraged at what was happening at Tesla when they saw the actual evidence. And so now I've seen right-wingers online going like, oh, look at this, it's absurd, man. You say the wrong word and it's $137 million. No, No, when a company does it over and over again and rubs your face in it, when you finally get to the one case that could go to court because they're burying everything else in arbitration, the jury unleashes and says, no, not on our watch. This is exactly what you're not supposed to be doing, you monsters.
Right. So, yeah, everything you guys said is accurate. But one thing that I remember when like seeing, and there were many obviously, but seeing the differences between Obama's rhetoric and Donald Trump's rhetoric was when Obama said, I'm the president, I take responsibility for everything. Now, granted, obviously he didn't all the time, but it's a nice thing to say. And then Donald Trump saying, I take no responsibility at all during the height of COVID. Now, how I view Elon Musk is, this is what he kicked other CEOs out to then rule. This is his baby. This is his thing. This is what he wants to be known for, aside from SpaceX. This is his jam. So if it is this systemic over and over again, he should be answering for this. He should be answering for putting those people in those positions, or at least hiring people to then put those other people in those positions. Some of the stuff that was brought up in the Times piece is abhorrent, disgusting. There should be consequences for it. But as JR said, I find it rather interesting that they're saying, well, we're gonna move to Texas, as if that's like some sort of weird distraction. It's not. Like one of the parts that I saw as well, the lawsuit claims a female black employee said her female white boss struck her with a hot grinding tool and called her stupid and the N-word and insulted her intelligence. The suit said the supervisor was fired, but then rehired. So it goes to show, if this allegation is true, they're not even punishing those that are doing all of this abuse to their minority employees.
Whenever people do stuff like this, of course they take note of whether or not it's being paid attention to, whether or not there's any consequences. It doesn't have to be a conscious decision where they go, okay, so on Tuesday I'm gonna do it because Wednesday, here come the consequences. It's not how it works. It's why many conservatives talk about law and order. You know, if as long as we send them all to jail, no matter how minor of a drug, say a marijuana offense is, we have to make sure that we derail other folks from thinking that they can do such a thing. You know, it's a crime deterrent. So similarly, in a workplace, if you see these types of things are going on, shouldn't there be a deterrent that you want to make sure other people that are within that workplace or across your whole entire company might want to think, hey, be put on notice. If I keep hearing about this, and if we investigate this, and a bit of this is true, the hammer's coming down. It's not like Tesla would have an issue hiring other people. Like, oh, is there a shortage of people that may want to work at Tesla? I get the feeling that people might want to work there. I'm not sure how much they get paid, but look, you have a plant full of people and they're pumping out cars and eventually Neuralinks, which we'll talk about another time. But this goes even further. Let's go to some of the sexual harassment that's happening there, because once you get some discrimination and racism, it comes ripe with a little bit of sexual harassment. Jessica Barraza, she also filed a lawsuit against Tesla due to the sexual harassment that she faced. Here's some of the details from her lawsuit. Co-workers would describe Barraza as having a, quote, Coke bottle figure, an onion booty, a fat A T words, is what she said. She's 38 years old. And in the suit, she alleges that a male coworker picked her up by her waist, pressing against her torso under her breasts, and placed her next to him. In a separate incident, the lawsuit alleges that a male coworker stuck his leg between her thighs as she was clocking back in from lunch. Also, complaints to supervisors went unheeded. That's one of the things that we keep seeing as a bit of a similar accusation. Barraza alleges that as well. And in one instance, she said that the supervisor overheard her complaining about a coworker staring at her breasts. Quote, maybe you shouldn't wear shirts that draw attention to your chest, is what the supervisor said, according to the suit. And Barraza countered that she was wearing a work shirt provided by Tesla. There's a lot of this, you see a lot of cross instances of this type of harassment, sexual harassment, and then people who also apologize for when women or anyone else get assaulted in the streets. Well, what were you wearing that night? How much were you drinking when it comes to things in the streets? Oh, well, why were you standing in front of that guy clocking in knowing he's a perv? All of these things go straight back to the victims, the alleged victims of these incidents, and never to, we need to clean this up. We've all seen those cheesy sexual harassment videos that people have to watch to make sure they don't do certain things when they're in the workplace. Are they not mandatory here? Or then after they pass it, do they not enforce then those rules?
Yeah, so Owen Diaz, the guy who won the $137 million, he was called the N-word and they told him to go back to Africa and they did it in front of his son. And in other cases, when people complained about racial harassment along similar lines, not only would it not be addressed at all, they would be fired soon thereafter. So they already proved it in the Diaz case, and he didn't win a giant number in punitive damages based on his case alone. They got to introduce evidence of what happens regularly at Tesla. That's why he won a giant settlement, because the jury was told by the Tesla attorneys, we have a zero tolerance on racial discrimination. And they came to the conclusion that in reality, they took zero responsibility for anything that happened at Tesla, and the fish rots from the head down. And so that culture is despicable and apparently rampant. And when you don't take any action after a complaint, when you don't take any action after hundreds of complaints, and then you fire the people who complained, the message is loud and clear. We are a racist company. You can say anything you want about black people, you can say anything you want about women, okay, and you will be rewarded. And so it's a little stunning to see a company doing that in this year. Now, I know, of course this still happens, right? It still happens in companies, and there's some isolated cases, there's some significant cases, there's some severe cases, but at one of the biggest companies in the world, Elon Musk is literally the richest man in the world, and he allows all this to happen in his company. It is unbelievable. And on top of that, JR made a great point. Then he goes around and says, oh yeah, I gotta get out of California. I gotta go to Texas where there's no regulations on anything we do. And then people in the right wing applaud that, like, way to go to Texas. You can abuse your employees any way you like in Texas. That's not a good thing. That's it.
Works out.
And by the way, guys, for all the right wingers out there who celebrate that, so maybe some of you agree with Musk or his workers that are saying all these horrible things. Okay, I get that. Obviously, I get that, right? But for those of you who don't agree with it, you know that Musk is not in favor of workers. You're a worker. Like maybe some of you are rich and you run a hedge fund, and God bless your heart, okay? And you're a billionaire and you like your fellow billionaire Elon Musk. But for the rest of you, he thinks you're lower than dirt. And yeah, apparently there's particular animus towards certain races and genders, but do you think he treats any of his employees well? Come on, man. He's the richest man in the world, and of course, this also is the only car plant, the one in Fremont, that's non-union in the whole country. Because God forbid he should pay a decent wage, he's only got a couple of $100 billion.
And let's not forget, John tweeted this out about how Elon Musk tweeted about unions. I think it was. I saw John respond to it today, and it was along the lines of, unions. What is the point of unions? They can kind of figure this out themselves. What's the point? He tweets all the time about what type of person he is. It's pretty obvious.
Yes.
So just believe him. It's not like he's hiding anything. He was doing it with the taxes, and every time that when Elizabeth Warren confronted him virtually over it, it's just none of it has any kind of respect for anyone else around him or how anyone else is treated.
Didn't he also tweet at Bernie Sanders like, I'm surprised you're still alive or something?
Yeah.
Just like crazy stuff. And like the weird thing is him being so erroneous and false has the same mindset that a conservative would have towards Donald Trump, which is, he shoots from the hip. He just really speaks his mind all the time. When really it's just so false and so erroneous and so terrible. Like remember, you brought up the taxes with Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders. Remember when he called the people who rescued the kids in a cave pedos? Like that was insane to say that, yet he did it. His practices at his plants are horrendous if these allegations are true. It's literally modern day segregation. So look, I agree with everything you guys said. The fact that he opened up his plant during the height of COVID, pre-vaccine, got people exposed. The one thing I believe that we don't talk about enough is long COVID in this country. Who knows what's gonna happen with those people. I hope that they're going to be okay long term. But he is who he says he is. To borrow what's my man's name? R.I.P. Dennis Green.
Yep.
Dennis Green. We are who we thought they were. Like, yeah, we know who Elon Musk is. He's a bad guy. Just follow the signs.
Thanks for watching the Young Turks. Really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.